Hello to all of you and welcome. Well, we are in the latter part of our 10-week journey through mindfulness with Grant Wardlow as our guide. This is already week 9, and next week is our last webinar together. I see most of you have joined us before. Some of you have been along on this journey with us from the start. I also see a couple of new names today. So welcome to you, and I will let you know that the other webinars are available for you and maybe you've already had a chance to see them on Grant's bio, but if not, they are listed there. We have a coffee chat scheduled for the week after the last webinar next week, so on the 16th. And I'm going to send out a notice to all of you with some information about that, just to kind of wind down our time together, talk about what the experience has been like, have a chance to ask some of those tougher questions to Grant that take a little more time and depth. So, and we'll do that a little differently so we can see each other's faces too. So I'm really looking forward to that. And at the end in our conversation time, we'll talk a little bit about some ideas for fall as well. But with that, I am going to turn it over to you, Grant, for today's meditation.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us here again on this Wednesday afternoon, week 9. I can't believe it's already been 9 weeks. And when I think about all that's happened in the past week, it's a little bit overwhelming. There's really a lot going on in the world. And I have to admit that I'm trying not to pay too close attention to it because I do find it all overwhelming. And with everything that is happening, I am feeling a little bit heavy-hearted this week. My expressions of gladness this week, in terms of gratitude, this week I'm really grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my family's health and for the health of my friends and colleagues. And why this is so will become apparent in a little bit. But I'm just really grateful that I am in good health, as my family and my friends are as well. In terms of my learning this week, kind of a tough lesson. I learned that sometimes it doesn't matter how hard I try or how badly I want something to happen, that some things just aren't meant to be. And that is okay. That sometimes I have to learn to let go of those dreams, those ambitions, those things that I really want to have happen that just aren't possible. And that I'm sure is really true for many of us right now, given the restrictions that have been in place. In terms of my accomplishment this week, that is simple. It is laundry. I got it done. Check. All is good there. And my delight this week actually comes from sharing a special meal with a dear friend, and how wonderful it is to be in relationship with someone who knows me and accepts me and loves me, and I can share, we can share a nice meal together. So that was really delightful to be able to do that this week. At the end, I do encourage you to please share with us your glad moments. I think that's really important to continue to share that. I hear from my clients as well as other people who I've shared this technique with, who are finding it really beneficial as we move through and ride this COVID wave, not knowing when it's going to end or where it's going to end. This week, in terms of the science of happiness, which is the course that I've been taking through Yale University by Dr. Santos. And this week, Dr. Santos talked a lot about Christopher Peterson and Martin Seligman's work. These gentlemen wrote the book, Character Strengths and Virtues, a handbook and classification. I know, right? It sounds riveting. What these two fellows did was that they created 24 character strengths based on quite stringent criteria, including, so character strengths have to be widely recognized across cultures. They have to lead to sense of satisfaction when we express them. They have to be morally valued. They are not things that diminish other people. Rather, they bring us up. They're considered the opposite of a negative trait, among other characteristics. Essentially, these are these strengths are things that are essential to us as human beings. When we enact on these strengths, we feel that they come very easily. They're effortless. They're very natural. They are part of who we are. And when we do enact them, they're also very energizing. They uplift us and they help us to make us feel happy. Now, what these fellows did was that so there's 24 character strengths, and they categorize them into 6 categories: wisdom, courage, humanity, justice, temperance, and transcendence. And so scattered throughout, I'll just list a few of them here. Some of these strengths include hope, gratitude. Of course, we've talked a lot about that. Love of learning, social intelligence, teamwork, humility, forgiveness, love, creativity, appreciation of beauty and excellence, spirituality, among others. Now, what their research shows us is that when we can identify, and once we identify our own character strengths, they become what is known as signature strengths. So when we can identify our own signature strengths and put them into action, it means that we are expressing our fundamental virtues, which allows us to flourish and feel and experience a sense of purpose and meaning in our lives. So when we can really hone in on those fundamental characteristics of who we are and give expression to them, it really helps to benefit our overall sense of state of well-being and our overall sense of happiness. Now, if you're interested in exploring more about character strengths, I'm going to put this up here. This is the website to go to. I can't quite tell if that's in there or not. viacharacter.org. And from that website, you can actually do a test that will reveal for you your signature strengths. Once you have those signature strengths, I invite you to find ways to put them into practice in your life. So moving on. So for the past number of weeks, I have been wanting to incorporate a musical meditation into our Wednesday afternoon gathering. And it just feels that this is the right week to do that. The reason I want to do a musical meditation is because music is such an integral part of the human experience. It has the ability to touch us in profound, meaningful, and emotional ways. Music, for many of us, gives us permission to feel. There are some melodies that just resonate with our whole being. And in this way, music is soulful. The Greek philosopher Plato wrote that music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything. And I could not agree more. Music just makes life better. The music I've chosen for today is music that, for me, is profound, meaningful, and emotional. And I've selected music from 4 genres that span 135 years of musical history. It was my intention to tell you beforehand the music that I've chosen, but I've decided against that. I will tell you the music afterwards, but I really don't want, in case any of you know any of the music, I don't want you to be caught up in thinking about the next song. And so I'm not going to tell you. It's going to be a surprise. And so today, it's just going to be music. I'm not going to be guiding you as I have in previous weeks, and invite you to just be mindful throughout your listening experience. Just let the music be your guide. Let the music wash over you. Take it in. Let it move you. And in whatever way it touches you, be mindful of that experience. Create spaces for whatever emerges, good or bad. There is no right or wrong here. Let yourself be with whatever is there for you. Be mindfully experience in it all. And after all, that's what this is. Let this be an experience, good or bad. Now, before we begin the meditation, I would like to read something that a friend sent to me on the weekend. Last Wednesday, as a tribute to those who have lost their lives to COVID, the New York Times printed 100,000 names, which covered numerous pages, of course. And beside each name was a short description of that person, capturing some part of the life she, he, or they had lived. I was touched greatly by this article because it reminded me that COVID is more than just a bunch of numbers that get thrown around each day. And while the article is very American-centric, I invite you past that to recognize that while many of us are beginning to incorporate more familiar ways of being in the world, there are thousands that will never get that chance. Even though we may not know any of them in person or by name, they were for a time a part of our collective consciousness, a part of our world. Let us not forget that each number represents a life. I'm going to read the article and then move right into today's meditation. I'm just going to start the music and invite you to, in your own way and in your time, come into mindfulness. Let yourself come into the present moment and just experience what is as you let the music be with you. An Incalculable Loss, New York Times, May 27th, 2020, by Dan Barry. 100,000. Toward the end of May in the year 2020, the number of people in the United States who have died from the coronavirus passed 100,000. Almost all of them within a 3-month span, an average of more than 1,100 deaths a day. 100,000. A number is an imperfect measure when applied to the human condition. A number provides an answer to how many, but it can never convey the individual arcs of life, the 100,000 ways of greeting the morning and saying good night. 100,000. The immensity of such a sudden toll taxes our ability to comprehend, to understand that each number adding up to 100,000 represents someone among us just yesterday. Who was the 1,233rd person to die? The 27,587th? The 98,431st? She may have died in a jam-packed hospital with no family member at her bedside to whisper a final, "Thank you, Mom. I love you." He may have died in a lockdown nursing home, his wife peering helplessly through a streaked window as a part of her slips away. They may have died in subdivided city apartments, too sick or too scared to go to a hospital, their closest relatives a half-world away. This highly contagious virus has forced us to suppress our nature as social creatures for fear that we might infect or be infected. Among the many indignities, it has denied us the grace of being present for a loved one's last moments. Age-old customs that lend meaning to existence have been upended, including the sacred rituals of how we mourn. Before, we came together in halls and bars and places of worship to remember and honor the dead. We recited prayers or raised glasses or retold familiar stories so funny they left us nodding and crying through our laughter. In these vital moments of communion, It could feel as though the departed were with us one last time, briefly resurrected by the sheer power of our collective love, to share that closing prayer, that parting glass, that final hug. Even in the horrible times of wars and hurricanes and terrorist attacks that seemed to crumble the ground beneath our feet, we at least had time-tested ways of grieving that helped us take that first hesitant step forward. Not now. Now, for most of those who died in the past few months, there were no large gatherings of consolation and recited prayers for peaceful rest. The obituaries that filled our local newspapers and Facebook pages sometimes read like an unending roll call of the coronavirus dead. Each death notice, virus-related or not, seemed to close with, "Due to health concerns and restrictions on gatherings, there will be no funeral services at this time. A celebration of life will be held at a time to be announced." A virtual memorial service was held instead, perhaps with mourners praying into laptop screens, followed by a burial, perhaps with masked mourners watching from their cars as another coffin was received by the earth. In a larger sense, the suspension of our familiar rituals of burial or cremation reflect what life in a pandemic has been like. The absence of any clear end. Even the dead have to wait. Why has this happened in the United States of 2020? Why has the virus claimed a disproportionately large number of Black and Latino victims? Why were nursing homes so devastated? These questions of why and how and whom will be asked for decades to come. For now, all we can do is hold our collective breath, inch towards some approximation of how things were, and try to process a loss of life greater than what the country incurred in several decades of war, from Vietnam to Iraq. 100,000, a threshold number. It is the number celebrated when the family car's odometer ticks once more to reach 6 figures. It is the number of residents that can make a place feel fully like a city. San Angelo, Texas, Kenosha, Wisconsin, Vacaville, California. So imagine a city of 100,000 residents that was here for New Year's Day, but has now been wiped from the American map. 100,000. Den mother of Cub Scout Pack 9. Manager of the produce department. Tavern owner. Nurse to the end. Loved baseball. Loved playing euchre. Loved seeing the full moon rise above the ocean. Man, could she cook. Always first on the dance floor. Always ready to party. Always gave back. Preferred bolo ties and suspenders. Awarded the Bronze Star. Served in the Women's Army Corps. Survived the sinking of the Andrea Doria. Competed in the Special Olympics. Immigrated to achieve the American dream. could quote Tennyson from memory. A number is an imperfect measure when applied to the human condition. 100,000. So, as we finish today's meditation, if that last song didn't get you moving, then I invite you to begin to slowly move. And when it feels right, open your eyes. So this is my first time trying this, and I'd love to hear some feedback. Love to hear your experience of it. Was it good? Was it not good? I hope that you found the music enjoyable, maybe even profound, maybe meaningful, and maybe even emotional. So thank you again for joining us this week, and look forward to seeing all of you next week. And we'll open it up now to any questions or comments. So please stick around.
Sounds good. Thank you, Grant. And wish you well, everyone who isn't able to join us. Have a great week. Yeah.